Welcome back. Today's topic is quite special. The theme is games, or more precisely, video games. That is to say, we will not talk about chess, cards, and the like. I guess many viewers will be confused. Why do we have to say that games are so unique when they're such a common topic? The main reason is that video games, as a new medium born in the 20th century, are quite difficult to define. Or at least, what we have been discussing in our channel is that if we observe video games from an artistic perspective, there will be many difficult to explain concepts in a video that cannot be communicated directly, which will then evolve into misunderstandings, such as the situation of going off topic that people often mention. In fact, if you look at any topic from an artistic perspective, it is inevitably that people will feel off topic, because art is not actually a fixed, accurate result. On the contrary, it is a fragile and constantly flowing process, especially when the field of art has developed to the 21st century. The fragility and instability of the word art have become more obvious. It is very easy to be alienated by the impact of popular culture, so it will naturally be more susceptible to interference from external and internal factors such as symbols and labels, which makes it impossible for us to recognize or dare to identify the fact that art participates in certain things, which naturally includes artistic creation with games as carriers. At least in electronic games, biggest delusion or even swallowing of the credit of art is that its carrier itself. That is, the two words came with Juno's symbolic meaning. Paragraph just now is the first content we're going to discuss today. If it is condensed into a question, it should be written as, why do we? You are hesitant to admit that games have artistic nature. Can you also write that games have artistic nature? Then he can even become after a discussion that if games are addictive, then what is the reason for their addiction? Let's look at the first question first. Why do some people hesitate, refuse, or deny the view that games have artistic nature? To solve it, we have to review a period of history about modern art. In the last decade of the last century, a lot of artists emerged in the field of modern art. It can be said that they all belong to an artist group called Young British Artists, which is abbreviated as YBA. The reason for mentioning them is that they produced quite a number of works of art that were directly shocking. In the entire field of art, they were quite radical. So much of their appearance made public think that art was about to die. The concept of art, that is, conveying emotions and formal art, that is, beautiful lines or exquisite and careful composition, were all swept away and discarded, leaving behind incomprehensible and even unacceptable vulgarity and revelation with a strong provocative meaning. What we are seeing now is the canvas painting exhibited by artist Mark Harvey at the Arts exhibition called Sensibility, organized by the Young British Artists organization in London. Maybe in our opinion, this painting is nothing special, but in Britain at that time, this painting caused a sensation, because this ordinary painting depicts Mara Handley, a notorious and well-known killer in Britain. In 1966, she was sentenced to life imprisonment for abusing her husband and killing 5 minors. Now everyone sees the face of Mara Handley. We can see that after being processed by artist Mark Harvey, the frontal photography of this killer seems to have been created with a seal girl-like quality. More than that, if we enlarge this painting and observe it more carefully, we can also find that the characters in the painting are made of or simulated children's palms. Undoubtedly, this behavior challenges the moral bottom line of the British public. For a while, this painting was attacked and accused from all sides, some of which were spiritual attacks, poorly written speeches, public accusations, and others were physically attacks, so that the exhibition had to remove the painting and even add bodyguards to protect it. Of course, if the artist Mark Harvey's prank can only be regarded as a provocation at best, then the work an artist we're going to see next can be regarded as overturning the spiritual world of a large part of European American people for a while. The multi-material work you can see now is an artwork by artist Chris Overlee, exhibited at Sensational Art Exhibition in the United States in 1996. Its name is the Statue of the Virgin Mary. If we translate the name of this artwork, in a certain sense, it can also be called the Statue of the Virgin Mary. It is the elephant of the elephant. The reason for this is that the material used for the protruding right breast of Saint Mary in this work is elephant dung. And just like Max Harvey, this artist named Chris Overlee also put some of his personal rebellion into the details of his work. For example, the close-up of the Bruttrons from the adult magazines collated in the work. I won't show it here. I won't enlarge it for everyone to see. This is a bit exaggerated. Obviously, if Mark Harvey was just attacked, then Chris Overlee faced real demonstrations and protests. The Catholic world will naturally not let him go easily. We all know this. However, in fact, the metaphorical conflict of this work is with iconic religious characteristics. In a nutshell, the angels surrounding Mary have become women's buttholes, or even sexual organs. So will the seer still have a scared appearance? Are those traditional Raphael-style Ken Madonnas just our imagination and expectations? In addition, he also questioned if the Virgin Mary flirts with you as a saint, can you resist the so-called scarce temptation? In addition to Chris Overlee's personal religion and understanding, we have another more important artist who is eager to exhibit his works. However, compared with the two artists we just mentioned, the artist we are going to talk about next, Andreas Serrano, should be regarded as their predecessor. What we are seeing now is his work exhibited in 1987. This is no doubt that this work describes the scene of the crucifixion of Jesus. The whole work has a strong apocalyptic tone. It is easy to remind us of the works of the artist Beck Sidney in the art field, and it also reminds us of the album cover of Marilyn Manson, the field of pop culture. It seems that such works are very common and nothing big. If you are here, it's because I haven't told you the name of this work yet. Artist Andreas Serrano named it Christ in Urine. Yes, just as everyone imagines, the apocalyptic color of this tone of his work is made of real urine. At least that's what Serrano claimed to the public. The same artist also claimed to be a devout Christian after witnessing 3 different heavyweight artworks by 3 artists. We will find an interesting thing. That is, after painting, which occupies an absolute position in the field of art, was impacted by modern technology. That is, after being impacted by photography art, traditional artists began to actively abandon the form of artistic expression and even discarded traditional art materials and creative materials. And the works they created during this period often have the characteristics of anti-judgment of modern civilization or social rules, provoking the bottom line of social morality, curing the spiritual world, and challenging religious authority. With the emergence of these artworks, another wonderful phenomenon has also jumped into our cultural rules. That is, since the 20th century, all works of art have been emphasized the process rather than the result. The result we're talking about here is exhibited in the art centers of some large-scale exhibitions in reality, and the process does not refer to the process of the artist creating it, but the entire process of its being exhibited. The process of public opinion erupting around these works of art from all walks of life. the complex process of one phenomena giving birth to another phenomena. And in this complex process, many of the superficial meanings or essence proposed or even created by those works of art will be absorbed to a certain extent by the popular culture under social culture. For example, just like the comparison Marilyn Manson's album cover we just mentioned, we may not be able to have a real experience just by saying this or taking the works above as examples. So why not take a look at a group of works that are very relevant to us now? What you are seeing now is a group of photographers by female artist Sarah Lucas. She named these groups of works personal portraits. This is a series of works that records a series of performance art he did from 1990 to 1998. In that era, this group of works was full of funny meanings, which may seem ridiculous to us now in our social context. It seems that he has lost the meaning of funny, the feeling of funny, right? But at the point, what the artist imitated and saturated were some male postures, portraits, and their funny faces in society. Now let's take a look at this previous short video. It's quite interesting, isn't it? It's quite funny. In fact, what the girls in the video are doing, the funny videos they shoot, are essentially the same as Sarah Lucas's photography works, which are imitating and interpreting the childish and funny side of men in society. At this point, I think everyone should have understand that the artist Sarah Lucas's work ended in 1998. He showed the result, but the process is still going on, even until this summer of 2024. This means that if we observe art with the result as the only criterion, we can hardly recognize whether most of the works of art born after the 20th century have the so-called artistry, because we are just in the process of being influenced by those works, especially under the hostage of many symbols and labels full of consumer concepts that are led by results. We are more likely to ignore the process of a work, or art, or artistic behavior. This also answers the first question we asked ourselves at the beginning. Why do we hesitate to admit that games have artistic value? It is because we are surrounded by art and are unwilling to admit that we are embraced by art. There is a very classic saying. In fact, our precious concepts have taught us that art is supreme, and then the capitalization structure of art has raised such supremacy to an untouchable level, so that when we are in art, we'll be inferior and unwilling to admit it, or afraid to admit it. After the 20th century, art has actually become popularized and pushed to every corner of the social structure. The impact of the emergence of movies and traditional art has led to this change in the concepts, and the meaning of painting has also undergone major changes. According to the content we talked about above, combining them and converging them into one sentence is that painting has changed from class needs to personal demands, and its task is to show the essence under the surface semantics in the deepest sense. The most fully expressive of this sentence is that various electronic devices we use now, which not only have the participation of technology, but also have graphic expressions like paintings. While using the results and processes we just talked about, just a simple graphic UI of the power of a button. We repeated the process countless times and at the same time feel the results the designers or artists hope to show when designing them. That is, mobile phones, computers, and even air conditioners are turned off. At this level, it can be said that all the successfully designed graphics UIs in games, those UI images are deeply rooted in people's hearts, are full of their own artistry. At this point, Blizzard, Bethesda, and Ubisoft have a considerably voice, and I believe that everyone who plays games should have a deep understanding of it. Speaking of this, perhaps the most confusing thing for us is the third question we raised at the beginning. That is, if games are addictive, then what is the reason for their addiction? We have discussed this issue from the perspective of society and philosophy in previous videos. Today we will observe and answer it from the perspective of art, and I believe it will be easier to understand than the previous answers. What you're seeing now is a painting created by artist David Hockney in 1970, artfully on canvas. And the name of the work is Clark and Bossy. We can observe a fact in this painting, which is the big event of digital that we mentioned above, the painting of photography impact. In such works, we can see the transformation of painting. The truth and record pursued by traditional classical painting have disappeared. This painting neither pursues the real proportion nor the natural and real light and shadow. Especially Bossy, the white cat sitting on Mr. Clark's lap. Light and shadow are particularly awkward, and it can even be concluded that it is wrong. The reason why the artist made such a treatment is to strip the recording mission of glass painting and enter the field of memory. We will find that this kind of painting is like a fuzzy memory, similar to I roughly remember the Clarks had a white cat, but I don't quite remember whether the white cat appeared on Mr. Clark's lap during the meeting. In order to convey this emotional quality that is unique to memory, I have deliberately portrayed the cat in a hazy way so that it seems to be dear and not dear, but also make everyone notice it at a glance. Well-known photographer Jeffrey Backing said in his Forget-Me-Not Photography and Memory, the photography pursues precision, but advanced painting seeks cohesion. Undoubtedly, Backing shapely expressed a point of view, that is, machines cannot add the subjective emotions of the creator. In order to show this emotion, photography will still modify the photos in the later stage like painting. Just like the photo editing software we use today, of course our topic today is not about which is better between photography and painting. It is to show that under such an impact, the art of painting has changed from the mission of recording to another carrier, similar to memory. This kind of modern painting work, with memory as the rising star, also has the relationship between process and result that we have mentioned above, and compared with other non-painting works that have a more intense impact on our modern social and cultural phenomena. This intensity is not reflected in how intense the process to create is. On the contrary, it reflects how quiet the process he created is. Among them, Edward Hopper's Nightwalker should be regarded as the most representative, as it is not only one of the paintings that makes it easier for us to recognize and recall this relationship between process and result. We can also find several characteristics of this masterpiece. The lack of detailed referencing of the scene to be depicted, an unnatural and unreal light of shadow. Even the faces of characters in the painting are very similar. These contents combined and created a dreamlike effect, which is highly similar to the vague nature of our memory. At the same time, we can also find that the memory characteristics expressed by this painting art have deeply influenced the artistic expression of some emerging carriers, such as the Blade Runner, which was born in 1982 and started by Harrison Ford. Blade Runner undoubtedly influenced another group of artistic expressions, including the games we're talking about today. I think everyone has heard about the painting art that was impacted by photography has undergone a transformation. This transformation is just like what we have been emphasizing above. He threw out a result and threw the whole process to popular culture to be active in another art form and evolved into a different appearance. Games are one of the processes it is carrying out. In the modern electronic game, in the 3A masterpieces we are playing now, the image is further evolved into a window that can be controlled and watched. Before, not long ago, Diablo 4 was released. I think everyone must know about this, because he is very focused and out of the circle. I like to watch Another Ops program very much. He is a blogger who focuses on the Diablo series. In the video, he talked about his personal opinion that only for the game Diablo 4, so the so-called core players are promoted to the numerical system of the game. That is, combat power, bunkers, talents, genres, etc., which are bounded to numerical system. while the so-called passers-by are the players who put down the game after playing the plot. Interestingly, there is a paper discussing puzzle games abroad that expresses a point of view. He said that the significance of the numerical system is to make players feel the complexity of the system incorrectly. Solve the problem for yourself and get rewards, that is, positive feedback, and become addictive to such a reward mechanism. Undoubtedly, this view corresponds exactly to the statement of the game blogger who specializes in the Diablo series. At least it corresponds to one side, that is, the side with the core players who promote it to the numerical system. Today's video explains the other side of it, which is the side of the passer-by players who put down the game after finishing the plot. In other words, the reason why the so-called passer-bys is addicted to the game is because the game provides an image window that can be controlled and viewed. This window expresses the process of painting works with the reminiscence in a dynamic manner. At the same time, we will also find that core players who like to deal with numbers are often very loyal to rationality. That is, they will be devoted to the same game and gradually become game masters, right? If the game is addictive, then the addiction is reflected in a large amount of energy spent on the same game, while those who like to obtain artistic satisfaction through the image window built by the game will be more emotional. They will try different game works. Similarly, if the game is addictive, then their addiction will be reflected in the time spent on different games, or even looking for different games. In other words, if the game is addictive in medicine, then we will undoubtedly repeat the same mistake again and fall into the arms of rationality or sensibility in a very classic way. For games, the important role played is not only to create the illusions of positive feedback. Numerical systems and modern art is involved. Our program today ends here. There are actually many topics about games and arts. As for whether to talk about it, it depends on whether you are interested. Okay, let me give you a blessing here. Maybe a very late but happy festival. Okay, see you in the next video. Bye.